Ready to start, folks? We have quorum? We're good, right? Sharif will sit down. Good morning. I'd like to call to order the New York City Transit Committee. Let's get started with our public safety announcements.
Good morning and welcome to the New York City Transit Committee meeting. Today we have 15 members of the public registered to speak. As a reminder, we ask all speakers to adhere to the MTA's conduct of rules and decorum. I'd also like to remind all speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to everyone, we will limit you to 2 minutes. Please be advised that there will be a warning beep when you have 30 seconds left to conclude your remarks. Our first speaker will be Lisa Daglian, who will be followed by Murray Bowden.
Hi, good morning. I'm Lisa Daglian, Executive Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. Today's book notes, in March, overall subway satisfaction is 62%, down 3 percentage points from February. Service reliability decreased 4 percentage points, while waiting times, travel times, and overall line all decreased 3 percentage points. The correlation between reliability, wait, and travel times and satisfaction is really telling. A real concern is that without reliable service, riders aren't going to keep coming back in the post-pandemic historic numbers we saw last week. Getting people where they need to go safely, reliably, efficiently, and affordably is key to getting riders back on board and keeping them coming back for more. We can't go backwards because platforms and trains are getting crowded again, not when we've all gotten used to the new model of on-time performance. Waiting 18 minutes for an F train won't cut it, but you know that. The strides that transit has made in the past year with the focus on the North Star of customer service and riders has been impressive, but not enough on their own. A concerted effort requires all the resources of the state and the city to bear as well. I had hoped that today we would be rehashing what the new state budget would bring. Call me optimistic, but I'll look forward to discussing that on Wednesday. The key to our region's future is ongoing, dedicated, and recurring operating funding for our transit network. You know it, the governor knows it, our Senate and Assembly elected leaders know it. Now we need them to bring it home in a way that none of us never had, in a way that we never have to have this conversation again. Reliability and frequency take funding. Consistent and targeted funding that comes off budget to the MTA and can't be siphoned off. And the city must contribute as well. Reliability and frequency also required equipment like the additional 640 R211 subway cars and a system that has state-of-the-art signals and power, accessible and modern stations, and reaches everyone who needs it.
Please.
That's why we need congestion pricing to be put into effect, where riders need it more today than ever. Thank you.
Thank
Can
you.
you get an extra second for the safety second?
Sorry about that. Our next speaker will be Murray Bowden, who will be followed by David Kupferberg. One moment.
I'm here. I've been coming here since Virgil Conway was head of the MTA. Virgil didn't talk to me when he was here, but when he went to the Thruway, he and I became buddies up there. In all the times I've come here, today is probably the most important of all the meetings I've ever come to. The change that I've seen in the 4 meetings or 3 meetings before I got here and got to speak now has been spectacular. The way people in New York City have been treating each other, not just me but others as well, is in a positive way. So after all of these years, I want to say that the change that has happened and is happening at the MTA is leadership for the country. I go to a lot of meetings, but what happened here this morning changes society. And you all need to be aware of the changes that are happening in the leadership for society that's happening here. I had things I was going to talk about, but nothing is as important as you should all be aware that the people working for change here are succeeding. People have tried before and failed, but the people who are moving this place forward now are succeeding. It was incredible, the changes I've seen this morning. Thank you all for moving the country forward. For me and for everybody of my generation and my grandchildren, we thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be David Kupferberg, who will be followed by Charlton D'Souza.
The service planners admit that Brooklyn has a dense core network of services that people have trusted for decades. Those service gaps remain. Therefore, there should be three objectives for the redesign: close service gaps, expand service to transit deserts, and do both without negatively impacting the core network. To close service gaps is no easy task. This is where there has to be transparency and dialogue with the affected neighborhoods. There are a significant amount of people who live in the Sheepshead Bay houses and need access to the Downstate Medical Center and Kings County Hospital. Besides, the elimination of Bedford Avenue service south of Fulton Street would not be tolerated by the surrounding communities. Leave the B44 local alone and streamline the B49 via Ocean Avenue and Empire Boulevard instead. As that bus service is also needed on Bedford Avenue and Rogers Avenue, a new route has to be created. I will call it the B50. The B50 would mostly follow the B103 in central and eastern Brooklyn, but with more stops, whereas the B103 in central and eastern Brooklyn would only stop at transfer points and major intersections. The glut of bus service in central Brooklyn via Avenue H in the draft plan is confusing and cumbersome. The B5 is a great idea, but it should be linked with the B6 and operate instead via Glenwood Road and Farragut Road between Flatbush Avenue and Ralph Avenue. Doing what I propose for the B5, B6, B50, and B103 would make the network easy to understand. Despite its poor service at every 74 minutes between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m., the B25 has the second highest ridership in Brooklyn during this time segment, according to the documents provided during the June 2010 budget crisis. Service should be increased. The MTA, however, is proposing the opposite. It wants to operate overnight B25 service solely between Fulton Street, Franklin Avenue, and East New York. This service cut is being done with the hope that riders would use other alternatives. If riders wish to use other alternatives, they would have already done so.
Please conclude your remarks.
If the MTA could spend money on customer service centers, it could spend money on implementing all the ideas I have proposed.
Please conclude your remarks.
Please. There will be a rally this Wednesday.
Please conclude your remarks.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Charlton D'Souza, followed by Jesse Figueroa.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? This is Charlton D'Souza, president of Passengers United. And I have to say, I am just outraged with what's going on because it says it's 2 minutes, but it feels like it's 1 minute and 50 seconds. And that is unacceptable, guys. And I've noticed when you talk about things controversial, your time gets limited. And I was not happy about what transpired at the last board meeting. But let me just talk about what's going on with these bus redesigns. A lot of community boards, I would say all of the community boards in Brooklyn have rejected the Brooklyn bus redesign. And I wonder why that is. So we've been very involved on the ground at Passengers United, as David Kupferberg, my vice president, just spoke. But on this weekend, you know, the 7 train was messed up, the N train was messed up, the Q train was messed up, and the F as in fish train was messed up. And on the Queens Boulevard line, you have the new signal system, right? Communication-based train control, and billions was spent on that. Well, guess what? It's breaking down. It's called network communication issues. And when that happens, everyone in Queens gets affected by it. Was the Long Island Railroad cross-honoring? No, it was not cross-honoring. Why? Because the MTA has told the Rail Control Center only issue LIRR cross-honoring in extreme circumstances. And that is outrageous and ridiculous. And, you know, our commutes are horrible. Last night, I saw 2 homeless individuals stretched out. The trains are dangerous. I almost got robbed and beaten up on Sunday overnight. A guy tried to come up to me, and the subways are not safe. This is why we're having a rally this coming Wednesday between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. To say something to the MTA. A lot of commuters have had it up to here. I don't know, the leadership, the board members, it seems like Transportation Alternatives, Riders Alliance, and all the other groups are now running the MTA. That's what seems like is going on. So commuters have had enough, and I tell all the people listening to the stream, contact your elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you. As a reminder, please keep your comments focused on MTA leadership as in our rules of decorum. Thank you. The next speaker will be Jesse Figueroa, who will be followed by Deborah Greif.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Hi. I'm calling you guys from Fort Hamilton. There's some problems I need to address. But basically, a bus driver from Michael Quill Depot got negatively exposed on social media, saying that he was dead on Holy Saturday. So I went to file a complaint with the police. So there was no action taken. So I went to see the bus driver on Easter Sunday, and I told him what happened. He was very disappointed, and he still is. That's number one. Number two, subway surfers is still rampant, and now on 4th Avenue and on the R train, and then there's still garbage on some buses system-wide. The only thing I'm asking the board to do is to enforce no eating, no drinking, no smoking, because if people have been smoking on the subways and now on buses lately, and that's serious. So I'm ashamed because I was on the Staten Island Railway yesterday, and their entity is spotless at the stations, everything. I mean, please, do something, please. I'm urging you, because I almost got harassed too on the subway the other day. So Charlton is not alone. I never got robbed. I was just harassed on the subway, and this is very serious. So our MTA opera staff alone doesn't need to take such bad rap. They're just doing their job as we do, and that's all I gotta say. Thank you, guys and gals. God bless.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Deborah Greif, who will be followed by Betsy Plum.
Good morning. My name is Deborah Greif. I'm a longtime bus and subway rider. I'm also a longtime community board member. One speaker made a major error and lie. Not one community board yet has voted on the bus redesign. We are studying it. We are meeting with the MTA, but none of us have said we're against it. So it's illegal to say false things about what boards have voted on. It's public record. Not one community board in Brooklyn has done that. I want proof. And if you don't have the proof, I'm going to ask the MTA to say something or do something, because I'm finding this totally disgusting. I am very annoyed and very upset, because we community board members take it very seriously. We know it's the first draft. What you're hearing is we may not like how the buses may be rerouted, but we realize it is first a draft. We're also not happy with New York City DOT, because they don't listen to us when we talk about bus stops that need to be accessible. For the bus redesign, we have met with many of the MTA government relations, and we thank you for hearing and listening to us. So in the future, please be careful what you're saying about how community boards vote. We didn't vote for anything, and we're not against the bus redesign. We just want to keep our routes, certain routes, the way we would like it to be. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Betsy Plum, followed by Danny Perlstein.
Good morning. My name is Betsy Plum. I am Executive Director of Riders Alliance, New York's grassroots organization of subway and bus riders. We are here again today as we wait patiently on the final state budget to stress the importance of not only ensuring that the MTA's fiscal cliff is resolved and averted in the state budget, but also ensuring that riders are invested in with more frequent service this year. A budget that fails to invest in more frequent service is a budget that fails riders, but it also fails transit. We have to ensure that transit is better than ever before, with more frequency, more affordability, more reliability. All of these are at our collective fingertips right now. The governor can deliver frequency with the stroke of a pen in the state budget. The state legislature can advance automated bus lane enforcement legislation. We have already joined the MTA alongside the Community Service Society in demanding the New York City Fair Fares program be expanded in the city budget. And we are hopeful that we are just days out from a final federal approval of congestion pricing. The question is, will we seize these opportunities ahead, or will we fall victim to the same status quo? We need to see investment in more frequency in the budget, all the more so given the $300 million already invested in Long Island Railroad riders, despite subway and bus riders forming a community 24 times as large, 72 times as large if we look at just the Grand Central Madison ridership. We deserve investment too. This year, we must see riders and our New York City transit workers invested in. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Danny Pearlstein, who will be followed by Jason Anthony.
Good morning. My name is Danny Pearlstein. I'm the Policy and Communications Director for the Riders Alliance. I'm here to talk about bus service this morning. There are roughly 1.5 million bus rides taken in New York City every day, the most in any city in the country, yet New York riders suffer the worst service. We suffer slow and unreliable service. We have some of the longest and most frustrating commutes. When we need and deserve fast, frequent, and reliable bus service, and this budget is an opportunity to do that. In this budget, we have the opportunity to fund more frequent bus service, to augment what's happening in the redesigns, to target equity areas of the city, and to make the buses work better for everybody. And there's also the opportunity to make permanent automated bus lane enforcement and to pilot bus camera enforcement outside of bus lanes. We know that a bus lane without enforcement is a parking lot, and too often that's true of bus routes throughout, even areas that don't have bus lanes. I ride the bus on Fordham Road, I ride the bus on Broadway in Kingsbridge and in Inwood, and I'm often moving at less than 3 miles an hour. And we have 1.5 million rides every single day, and all too often this is what people are experiencing it. So we need that automated enforcement, we need that frequency, and we need an acknowledgement, I think, from the Assembly in particular, that this is a budget matter. Right, that slow and unreliable bus service is costing the MTA an estimated $300 million a year. That's money certainly that should be reinvested in the service that riders need. And it's also something where the city has a big role to play. We saw this week the mayor came out in favor of a free bus pilot. And of course, we know that the mayor could pilot free buses anytime he likes on the city subsidized routes operated by the MTA bus company. But we also know the city has an enormous role to play in speeding up service and implementing new busways and bus lanes throughout the city, and that the mayor is behind on that. So we need a full-scale effort coordinated by the governor and the mayor, the city and the state, the MTA and the DOT, to speed up the nation's slowest buses and deliver far better for 1.5 million riders a day. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Jason Anthony, who will be followed by Alita Dupree.
Good morning, Rich. Good morning, Hilda. And good morning to the rest of the committee board. Jason Anthony, pretty fresh coming back from Orlando, enjoying my spring break vacation. A couple of things that I want to bring. On April 4th, right the day before I was going to spring break, I saw 2 teenagers while I was getting dinner on a fast food joint on Queens Boulevard and 37th Street. They were, guess what? Subway surfing on a 7 express train going towards Flushing. This is the first time, Rich, that I see this with my own 2 eyes. I couldn't believe this. And on my home station, Atlantic Avenue Barclays Center, an 18-year-old got stabbed. This past weekend, another person got stabbed at 42nd Street Port Authority bus terminal. While we see police officers at stations, some of them are distracted on their phones. Yes, we could appreciate them being there, but we should do multitasking like I usually do. We gotta appreciate the police commissioner, Kishan Sul, to be here and hearing testimonies like mine because I'm a daily commuter who uses the subway and bus. We should love to see her here instead of seeing her subordinates here. So
Please conclude your remarks.
that's all I have to say for this month.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Alita Dupree, followed by Christopher Greif.
Thanks again, Chair Ida Mahalsis and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her, as I speak generally about transit. Hopefully I'll be able to see you all in person soon and ride on buses and this legendary and historic system that is the subway. I'm getting homesick for New York and I want to be able to participate. ADA is absolutely essential, as I've said before. Now that we have a settlement, it's important that we get the work going to make the system fully accessible. And hopefully I'll see a lot of change coming on this year. And in reading a news report about the climate plan, as much as I like our all-electric subway, it's still producing emissions. And how can we build ourselves a 100% renewable powered subway? Other systems are getting there, but I believe that we can do it and it is reasonable to do so. It's not going to happen today, but I think within the next few years, we can do that. And Omni is essential, and I'm looking forward to using Omni for reduced fare, which I've signed up for it. But along with that, we have to have a sunset on the paper Metra cards. It's time to work toward that day because Omni is a more inclusive, user-friendly, and safe system that has more opportunities for people to add money to their Omni cards and accounts, including payment of cash in communities. So I look forward to seeing you all soon and riding on this system that holds to ideals that are legendary and stately. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Christopher Greif, followed by Andy Pollock.
And good morning, everyone. Christopher D. Greif. Hope everyone's doing well. Sorry I'm not there. First, I do want to appreciate a lot of things as we got this settlement done. It's a big day, a big celebration. So a round of applause for that. Also, it will be nice to see that as we're doing a lot of outreaching out here in the community with the bus redesign, it is extremely important to get the facts correct before you jump to conclusion. A lot of things that we've been advocating is to getting better buses, better safety for working with MTA and DOT. But if we're not going to work together, we're our worst enemies ourselves. How can we advocate? But it's not just going after the MTA. It's not just going after DOT. Is our communities need to put their comments and questions in. Just an example, how to get a proper bus stop, how to make sure it's truly ADA accessible. How can we make anything ADA accessible if we don't hear that, if we're going to fight on this, fight on that, and not getting things done? It is really upsetting to hear that facts are going out, but the information is not correct. MTA has been putting out the information, and they always put in the right. We're not in the 90s. We're not in the 80s. We're in the 21st century. Check your facts before we jump to conclusions. These conclusions, we need to make sure, like, that's why there's an app. You see something is messed up, put it in there already. But the thing is we want to make sure that everything is safety, lighting is better. Please always make sure officers are around and make sure more cameras are there. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Andy Pollock, followed by Robert S. Whitaker.
Thank you, Kate. Good morning, Hada. Good morning, Richard, and good morning, everyone. So, a couple things that I'm going to discuss regarding safety overall. Number one, we're going back to a very dirty pre-pandemic habit. What is this dirty pre-pandemic habit? You all may be wondering, and what I gave gratitude about 2 years ago, and even during the worst of COVID 3 years ago. Oh, that was making sure the buses were staying clean. I said on the record, I've never seen buses so clean before, but guys, it's starting to become that. What's going on with the bus cleaners? Where are they? Because I was on the Q12 last month, 2 weeks ago. All right, 2 weeks ago. And I noticed that, actually, no, this was last week. Yeah. Last week I noticed flowers on the accordion part of the Q12 bus. And then also regarding safety, we need a crowd control policy because I'm telling you, I've never seen passengers so hostile towards overcrowded buses ever in my lifetime. I've been riding buses since 2009, and this is the craziness I have seen. Right? Bad enough Queens Village Bus Depot has yet to address the operator availability issues, and I'm really grateful Jamaica Depot has been sending out a lot of Q17 buses lately. But we need crowd control. And you know what? The kids who already have their student Metro cards, let them board on the back of the bus. That needs to change. And the drivers, if you're listening to this, you need to start enforcing the next bus please sign, even if there's operator availability, because my buses are getting completely overcrowded, and this needs to stop. And also subway safety. Somebody got assaulted at Port Authority this weekend. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Please conclude
I'm done
your remarks.
talking for now, and I'm going to speak again in May if something else comes up from that.
Please
Thank you
conclude
very
your
much
remarks.
for hearing me out this morning.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Robert Whitaker, who will be followed by Caitlin Pierce.
Hi. Good morning. My name is Robert Whitaker. I am a local 100 bus operator out of Brooklyn. I live and work out of Brooklyn. I am also a local community board member. And I'm here to talk about the bus redesign and bus operator safety and policies of the MTA. Now, while we have an extension of 4 additional pop-up sites for the bus redesign, nothing was ever done out of my community board. It seems like the MTA isn't listening even to begin when those pop-ups come. At the recent Coney Island pop-up, only 100 people were allowed or were either know that they were there to talk to or express their concerns. So you know what? You need to extend the process and put more pop-ups into more communities to get more feedback. Bus operator safety, big thing. We hear so much about subway safety and that all the police and the police and police. What happened to bus operator safety? We don't get checked on very much, and the new radio system, which is down far more than it is up, leaves us as bus operators vulnerable. Can we pilot a program here to have the police check on bus operators along their routes more often than not? And this isn't fare evasion, which we do need a lot of that too. But enough is enough when it comes to bus operators. We're tired of being hung out to dry. Now, recently, workers' place violence has been taking a bigger share of the MTA here. While the response time has gotten better, the policies are still wrong. Informing the person that's trying to make a workers' place violence complaint or an OEEO complaint is wrong and needs to be reformed.
Please conclude your remarks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Caitlin Pierce, who will be followed by Derek Holmes.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the time today. My name is Caitlin Pierce. I'm Deputy Director at Riders Alliance. And as many have said, we're at such a critical moment today while our governor or our state leaders are negotiating how we're going to balance the MTA's budget. And the thing we really want to know is what our riders going to get. In the course of running our campaign for more frequent bus and subway service for 6-minute service, we talked to over 5,000 riders. And the resounding thing that we hear from them that they want to see is more frequent service that makes their lives more convenient, that they can rely on. And, you know, as we talk to riders at bus stops and subway platforms, our biggest challenge as organizers isn't getting people excited about a campaign for more service. It's that riders in Brooklyn, in the Bronx, in Queens, just often feel very skeptical that there's not the political will to get this done. They don't see enough positive change in their communities, and they frankly don't feel like, you know, the government cares enough to invest the $300 million that it would take to make their lives better. And these are MTA customers, these are New York City voters. Their lives would be absolutely transformed. Our lives in the city would be transformed by more frequent service. And it's the governor's job to make it happen here in the city, just as she did for commuters in Long Island. We know that there's political will at the MTA to run more frequent service, so let's get it done this year. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Derek Holmes, and our final speaker will be Omar Vera.
Cool. Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Derek Holmes. I'm the digital strategist at Riders Alliance. So I do want to say, I'm sure everyone in this room is very proud that last Thursday we hit 4 million subway riders, which again is like what, it's hovering around 70% of pre-pandemic levels, but still, riders are back, they're coming back. And the question that I want to pose is that as we continue winning back riders, what is it that these riders can expect? You know, is it service cuts? Is it fare hikes? Is it MTA worker layoffs? Because if so, you know, that would just be so very counterproductive to all of the progress that has been made to win back riders and really has the potential to undo a lot of that progress. Which is to say, right now, our governor really does have an opportunity to, you know, not just applaud these ridership milestones from the sidelines, but to be making the kind of investments that are necessary to produce these kinds of ridership milestones. And that's by investing in more frequent bus and subway service, hashtag 6-minute service. So as we remain optimistic about the state budget, we just want to say that we're really looking forward to seeing MTA receive the resources that are necessary to avoid service cuts, to avoid new emergency fare hikes, so we can focus on providing the kind of reliable service that is necessary for us to continue winning back riders, so we can continue celebrating our return to pre-pandemic levels and, of course, continue to rise beyond those. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Our final speaker today will be Omar Vera.
Good morning, MTA Board's Transit and Bus Committee. Greetings. Well, I had to mention a couple times since the R211 was introduced in service, I've ridden it, and it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Now, that's the R211A model. We're waiting for the open gangway, which is the R211T, coming later this year. But can't wait to see how it is. The one criticism I have of it is that there's lack of Wi-Fi. I thought, like in the introduction, it said there was supposed to be Wi-Fi, like free Wi-Fi on the train, but the only Wi-Fi I've seen is basically when we go through station to station, and that's if you're underground. Fortunately, I just use my my iPhone, which has cellular signal when it's underground, and then of course, which doesn't need it when it's above ground since we have the regular service. But I think that's something you need to fix. Like, we've been waiting for years to see when we will have the free Wi-Fi on the subway trains, and this is finally the chance to do it. By the way, I like the new Omni vending machine you have there. I don't need it because I already use reduced fare Omni, but it's very useful for when MetroCard's finally phased out with Omni, like for those who prefer using Omni cards. And like I said, the neighboring bus systems in Nassau and Westchester, I've heard are going to start using Omni, which is good. But that said, I don't have much to say, but that's pretty much about it. That's pretty much all I have to say this week. So take care.
Thank you. Madam Chair, that concludes the public comment session.
Great. Thank you to all our speakers. Before we move on to today's business, just two announcements. I, too, want to congratulate Transit for hitting 4 million riders last week. Truly a new milestone. I guess that's what happens when we work together and get cleaner, faster, and safer service, right, in one day. Right, exactly, Andrew, one day. And then secondly, I'd like to wish Rich a very, very happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
In the words of Jack Benny, you're 39 today, Rich?
I got an AARP invitation in the mail last week, if that gives you any indication of how old I am. What humbling.
Okay. So before we do that, I just have to make a motion for the minutes of last month's.
Second.
Randy? Lisa? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passed. Changes to the work plan, Rich?
No changes to the work plan.
Okay. All right. So let's move on. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate that. So, good morning, everyone. Recognizing Earth Day was this past Saturday. The realities of climate change, sustainability have become obviously critical consideration in all aspects of our lives. Transportation has been identified as an industry as a significant contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, leading, as we all know, to the cause of global warming. But fortunately, enhancements and advancements in technology and innovation have led to the emergence of sustainable transportation options that promise a greener future. New York City Transit, as we know, has been the most sustainable transportation option in the city since 1904. But it's 2023, and we're expected to become even more sustainable. Our Faster, Cleaner, Safer plan works to attract more riders into our system to take advantage of that green technology and are improving efficiency by reducing emissions. New York City Transit's initiative to become even greener and realize the MTA's commitment to a zero-emissions bus fleet by 2040, which will avoid 520,000 metric ton of carbon emissions annually, was recently recognized by the Federal Transit Administration. Last Thursday, the MTA, one of 4 agencies across the country, received an FTA Champion of the Challenge Award for our zero-emission transition plan. This plan details the framework that prioritizes the deployment of zero-emission buses in at-risk communities. It highlights our aims to transition to 100% zero-emission bus service by 2040, while also training all of our workers in that new technology and maintaining great service and, as I said, prioritizing those communities that have been impacted by poor air quality and climate change. Behind every plan are people who have dedicated themselves to this success. We have a strong, talented team with the Department of Buses, but I particularly want to mention Sunil Nair, the Chief Officer for Zero Emissions, who put together, with a number of other folks, he will always say teamwork, to put together that award-winning plan. So congratulations to Sunil and the entire bus team. We also have focused our attention from our colleagues in C&D, Ops Planning, Sustainability, and Procurement, each of whom are working hard to turn this plan into a reality. And with the focus, overall focus to improve the customer experience and attract more frequency for bus and riders, let me turn now to our March satisfaction numbers. I was excited to see that the overall bus satisfaction numbers for March, which includes local, limited, select, and express bus, maintained its 69% historic high, identical to last month, and a 5 percentage point increase since December. Local bus service overall experience is 68%. Our express bus customers are even more satisfied at 76%. Bus cleanliness was the highest rated indicator. Obviously, we heard from comments from at least one customer. We have some work to do there, but I think overall in the fleet, we're doing good work. And shorter wait times and weekends and weekdays remain the most common mention of what would encourage you to ride more frequently. The bus team continues to focus on moving the needle by deploying a multi-pronged strategy to improve bus service. This includes, as was mentioned, more than doubling the number of buses with our automated bus lane enforcement cameras from 423 to over 1,000 this year. Beginning next week, May 1st, the BX35 will join the ranks of ABLE routes to increase performance and reliability. 27 additional bus routes will be activated with the BX25 in the Bronx, which also shares a fleet with the BX19, which was activated last year. The program to date has resulted across New York City in over 220,000 violations. Now, I'd prefer to have no violations, but what we know is 80% of violators don't reoffend. It changes the behavior that we wish. The new routes will expand coverage to over 80% of our existing bus lanes, so well-enforced bus priority is the best way to keep our buses moving, delivering on our faster, cleaner, and safer plan. We'll hear from the buses team shortly about their efforts also to focus on the 28 least performing routes, so we look forward to hearing from Safira and Jimmy in a moment. I should also say Frank in a car, is actually on the line. We dispatched him to a national bus conference in the exotic city of St. Paul. But he is on and is also available to answer questions as well. For anyone from St. Paul, I'm sure I'm going to hear from you. I'm sorry. As we turn our attention to subways, service reliability is the best it's been in a decade, with record on-time performance for 3 straight months. This month, on-time performance in April for weekday is 85.1%, and weekend service is just shy of 87%. Our overall on-time performance in subways is 84.5%, the highest it's ever been. To give you a sense, last year at this time, or the entire year, was 81.6%, and 2019, when things were going pretty well, by the way, it was just over 80%. So the subways team continues to hit operations out of the park. Overall subway reliability did take a slight dip in March. We saw a 3 percentage point drop in satisfaction to 62%, but still up 10 points since last summer. So more work to do, but as mentioned, ridership is also returning in record fashion. March was the first time we had 100 million subway customers since COVID, and last Thursday, as mentioned, we hit the 4 million mark for the first time since COVID as well. So folks are returning. Now, our last speaker, Omar, mentioned the R211 cars. I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying those. Wi-Fi does not come with those cars, by the way. Transit Wireless will be wiring our transit tunnels in the coming years, so that's where you'll get your Wi-Fi. But the R211s have been the R211 has been performing quite well. And as I've said before, the critical piece there is not only the customer amenities that we've discussed, but the R211s are expected to be 3 times more reliable than the R46s, which they are replacing. A huge part of our overall capital plan, that we're investing over $6 billion in new train cars as part of our historic $55 billion capital plan. Again, so important to get things like congestion pricing done and the budget done to fund these important capital initiatives. And kudos to Chair Lieber for continuing to push to ensure that we're investing critical capital across the board. Overall customer satisfaction in subways with safety and security on trains and stations remains at about 60%, up from 45% a year ago, indicating that our initiatives like station renovations, our improved cleaning efforts, and the partnerships like COPS, cameras, and CARE are in fact moving and improving the overall customer experience. On March 30th, customer service in the transit system was further enhanced as our station agents began to support customers outside the station booths. Station agents are assisting riders outside the booths by helping customers wherever they are located, answering questions, providing directional support, being around the turnstile areas and platforms, helping customers at our fare vending machines, monitoring the cleanliness and safety of the stations, and reporting any issues to management or the police. I want to give a shout out in particular to the IT team who has been helping distribute cell phones to our 2,200 station agents. Someone told me it was going to take 2 years. They're doing it in 2 weeks. So I appreciate their effort to get that done. We also opened 3 additional customer service centers in the subway, newly opened centers at Fulton and Street in Manhattan, Myrtle Wyckoff, and 74th Street in Jackson Heights and Roosevelt Ave in Queens. All 3 centers are repurposed station booths and feature enhanced lighting, canopy, wrapping signage so customers can identify that, and they'll be able to also get more transactions done. I also want to call out the Subways team and thank them for their accelerated opening of 12 more stations of bathrooms. We had committed last month to this board that we would open them by the beginning of May. Well, as usual, Demetrius and team over-delivered, and it opened the last, I think, 4 this morning. Correct, Demetrius? Yes. So how many do we have total now? So for bathrooms, that makes about 40, as I recall, and stations about 22. But Demetrius, you will know better than I. I'm quite sure I made those numbers up. They were directionally correct, but not exactly accurate.
We opened 9 stations, 18 bathrooms, the first tranche. And the second tranche was 12 stations with 24 bathrooms, so 42 total.
Got it. Great. And working on our third tranche as we speak. So far, so good. We appreciate bringing that amenity to our customers. You know, as more employees are delivering high levels of satisfaction, and I do hear often from our customers that our bus operators and our station agents and the train conductors, and go down the list of all of our employees are just delivering excellent customer service. I do want to share just a little reaction to the recent acts of violence in our system, and more importantly, on our employees. Public service is more than just a policy here at New York City Transit. It represents the men and women who serve others. While carrying out that service, no one's job description should include looking over their shoulder in fear of being assaulted. The assault of a transit worker is outrageous and continues to be completely unacceptable. We take the safety of our colleagues at New York City Transit very seriously, and I know I speak for all of management as we do and think about ways we continue to improve that. We'll hear from Chief Grandstaff shortly. Chief, thanks for joining us, and his report about how we continue to work with law enforcement, and we will not stand by any assault. We continue to work closely with law enforcement agencies and continue to help bring these perpetrators to justice with our extensive camera network, both on our buses and our subway system. Turning to paratransit, for the month of February, Access-a-Ride realized an increased demand year over year of 25%. So you talk about subway ridership and bus ridership increasing. We're basically back to pre-pandemic levels on paratransit. The on-time performance of our primary carrier service completed 97% of its trips within the 30-minute pickup window from the promised time, and on broker service, it was 96%. We continue to see improved service in both primary and broker respectively, and we continue to push both entities or both groups to continue to improve service as well. And as I mentioned, in a moment, we'll hear from Department of Buses Chief of Staff and VP of Business Strategy, Safira. You have a long title. You have an equally long business card. And the Deputy General Manager, Jimmy Coyle, will highlight an initiative where we are improving the performance of 28 routes, which affect almost 20% of our ridership across the system. Customers riding these routes represent a disproportionate amount of our least satisfied customers, and our focus is to improve their experience and deliver them faster, cleaner, and safer service. Lastly, before I turn over to Safira, I just wanted to say that, as you know, I am a fan of April birthdays, and I wanted to wish both Christopher Greif and his mother, Deborah Greif, who testified earlier, staunch transit advocates and true partners of ours, a happy birthday, as well as April was their birthday month. That's all I have, Chair. Actually, I'll turn it over to Safira unless there are questions.
Any questions before we turn over to Safira? Madhur.
Hi, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Rich. So I had some questions about the operating performance, and I want to make sure this is the right time. So first of all, in your report, I really appreciate how you called out the lines that were experiencing decreased OTP. I think that's the direction we need to go in, line by line, station by station. So I think that's really important. I saw overall in subway delays, crew availability, that used to be a big driver of delays. That's increased substantially. Do you feel like you've all solved the availability issue? Just wanted to check in on that.
I mean, it's decreased substantially.
Decreased,
yes,
I'm sorry,
yes, it has
decreased.
It has decreased substantially. I mean, I think, so two things. We've obviously gone on a pretty robust hiring spree the last 12 months. Now it's about ensuring employees who are here are available for work, and that's an initiative that Demetrius and team, I'll let Demetrius talk a little bit about. But I think it's probably never solved. It always needs to be managed. Maybe I'll just say that. But Demetrius, why don't you talk a little bit about a few of the things that you and the team are doing?
So we're still hiring at peak levels as we did during the pandemic. So we're still bringing in people. We still had TSS that we brought back that were retirees. The classes have been increased in size. The shortened time for hiring for both train operators and conductors. But just wanted to reiterate this month still represents the highest on-time performance, higher than anything we had last year at all. So I said to Rich, we create these high expectations and then we have to live by them. But it's still magnificent performance compared to what we were doing before.
Thank you. And on the performance side, on the bus front, I think this is not the first time I've seen that for buses, the Brooklyn customer journey time is not meeting the system-wide average goal. And so just wanted to check on buses. What are we doing specifically in Brooklyn to improve? And maybe that's the Zafira presentation, so I'll leave it there. But I just wanted to highlight that is something that I'm thinking about. Yeah, that's it.
She's shaking her head, yes. So why don't we hear from Safira?
Yeah, I think we'll go through. Can you hear?
we'll go through the presentation and we can talk about the Brooklyn Link. So, as you know, our North Star is to improve customer satisfaction by 10 percentage points. In the case of buses, 73% by June of next year. It's a lofty goal, but one we're sort of laser focused as a team on achieving. Is it two? Okay. As Rich mentioned, our current overall satisfaction rate for March, which includes local, limited, select, and express service, is 69%. It's unchanged from last month, but as he said, a full 5 percentage point increase since the end of last year. And our customer satisfaction rate remains at the highest level since we started our surveys last year. As an example of how focused the entire bus organization is, customers have told us overall that they are very satisfied with how clean our buses are. It's at 75%. And how helpful our drivers are. It's at 70% of satisfaction. These two indicators directly reflect on our customer focus. However, they've also indicated that shorter wait times and improved service reliability would encourage them to ride the system more frequently. Indicators that show we need to do more both internally and with our city partners. As you can see from this chart, customer satisfaction with travel times has trended upwards since we began the survey. And while we took a slight dip from last month at 70%, we're still at one of the highest levels of satisfaction, though we know there's room for improvement. Satisfaction with wait times is currently at 53%, which is a 5 percentage point increase from where we first started the survey in June. We have been addressing this on multiple fronts. I think Rich mentioned this as well, where this includes network redesigns, coordinating with our partners at DOT to add bus lanes and busways, expanding our automated bus lane enforcement program, and working to get legislation passed to expand our ability to enforce bus stop and double parking violations. While these major initiatives are crucial to improving speeds and reliability, we have also taken a more granular approach, focusing with our city partners on more targeted strategies to move the needle at a local level. Specifically, this year our team identified the lowest performing routes, in some cases reviewing these block by block, and have developed tactical action plans to improve their performance, which we're in the process of implementing now. Just a bit of background on the methodology. Our intent here was to cover all 5 boroughs and focus on routes with above average ridership to ensure that our efforts benefited the greatest number of customers. We then looked at some important indicators, including customer journey time performance, service delivery, our customer satisfaction surveys, and weekend service. Routes were then weighted using these indicators, and we came up with 29, actually, priority routes to target, with the goal of increasing performance up to or beyond the borough average. This slide shows the routes that were identified across all boroughs. Interestingly, while these 29 routes represent slightly less than 10% of our total bus routes, they account for approximately 20% of our ridership. Not surprisingly, our road operations team immediately recognized these routes as the ones our customers need us to prioritize even more. Focusing on just these 29 routes will benefit not only the 20% of our customers who ride them, but thousands of other daily customers who ride other routes that travel through the same corridors, including a disproportionate number of our least satisfied customers. The intent of this intensified focus is to make critical performance improvements and then next year move on to another tranche of routes, taking on board the lessons we've learned from this set of routes and this initiative. As part of this process, we have profiled the priority routes to identify deficiencies and have begun to implement strategies to produce sustainable improvements. This included reviewing specific locations that are bringing down performance, reviewing where we might be getting to the stop too early or too late, evaluating how effectively we've deployed our on-street and mobile dispatchers, And we're now working with the entire team in collaboration with our city partners to target key problem locations on these routes. What we quickly realized is that it really does take a village to make an impact. As you will see from the next several slides, while there's much we can do on our end, the success of this initiative also hinges on the strength of our partnerships with our city agencies, working closely with NYPD to go on joint blitzes and target those routes for illegal driver behavior, or working with our city partners to prioritize street-level changes. Additionally, some of the problems on these routes will require some of the larger fixes mentioned earlier, such as new or augmented bus lanes. I will now pass this on to my colleague, Jimmy Coyle. Jimmy is a Deputy General Manager of Road Operations. He has almost 30 years of experience in operations, and he started off as a bus operator in the system. He's going to go through some of the hard work that's been done and the progress of the team on two of our priority routes, the Q66 and the M101.
Thank you. And thank you for having me here today. As was said before, we have identified our lowest performing routes, and we're using a comprehensive full court press approach to elevate the performance of those routes. And happy to report that the needle has already begun to move. These routes have been historically low performers mostly, and they've been stubbornly resistant to improvement. Not so much a low-hanging fruit approach, as these routes are not easy targets. This is more like low-hanging iron, because these have been the difficult ones, and if this was easy to fix, it would have been fixed years ago. But our goal is to make sustainable, cost-neutral improvements, the kind that stay fixed when we take our hand away from it, not the kind that backslide when we take our focus off of it. So, and on our stretch goal on top of that is to have fixes that will become a template to elevate the performance of other routes so that we can build off of that. All right, we're just going to showcase a couple of those routes today, and the first is the Q66. The Q66 is an east-west route that runs from Main Street Flushing to Queens Plaza, mostly on Northern Boulevard. There's challenges on the route, bus bunching, delays in the Queens Plaza terminal. That's the 59th Street Bridge traffic over there. That's where the bridge comes into Queens. That's mostly a rush hour issue. Blocked bus stops and sidewalks. Main Street and Roosevelt is the main culprit over there. That picture on the top right you can see is the sidewalks are so blocked with vendors that the pedestrians often have to walk in the street. The street is a bus lane. It's actually a bus way on Main Street, and those pedestrians walking in the street come in conflict with our buses, and obviously a safety issue is there, and we don't want that, but also it negates the benefits of having a bus lane if we have people walking in and our bus operators have to take extra care and go slower because of the presence of the pedestrians. So actions taken to improve the Q66 performance, enforcing traffic and safety violations more aggressively. We have begun an initiative in working with the Traffic Enforcement Division and local precincts. That just started at the beginning of March, and we've been writing summons with them, and so far in just under 2 months we've written over 2,000 summonses. So as I said before, we'd prefer that there weren't violations, but this is the way that we have available to us to get compliance, and we've seen some benefit from that already. Deploying mobile dispatchers more strategically. In the case of the Q66, we're deploying our mobile dispatchers at Northern Boulevard and 81st Street in the AM, and at Northern Boulevard and Woodside in the PM. And that's to adjust and monitor during peak hours. And it also has the benefit of reducing bunching, which adds up to a positive way in our metrics. Coordinating with New York City DOT on removal of impediments to the roadway. That's the dining sheds that we see in the streets, as well as some of the vendor structures that pop up on the sidewalks. And coordinating with DOT to implement new bus lane is something that we would anticipate hoping to get up to 4.6 miles. And also mention that the network redesign for Queens, we're hoping to extend the Q66 route so that it will go to Borden Avenue and keep that layover away from the crowded Queens Plaza area and bring service to a new burgeoning community in Hunters Point. At least that's the way it stands in the current iteration. Nothing's written in stone, but we're very hopeful that that's going to get done going into the near future. So these are some of the positive statistical results so far. On the weight assessment, we see it's gone up by 5.1% March over March. As I said, we've only recently begun this initiative. Not everything is fully deployed in all areas, but we're already yielding some results. Though still it's below the division average there in northern Queens, it is a substantial increase in the percentage. It's a sharp positive trend in the right direction for us so far. And then service delivered is up by 5.7%, which again is a sharp increase in a short time that we've been working on this so far. Still not at the division level, but it's room to improve, but there's been a lot of progress to this point. Customer journey time, we're seeing an increase of 3.3%, and where we were at the division average a year ago, now we're above the division average in northern Queens. Q66 also has significantly improved with regard to bunching. It should be noted that the Q66 has greater frequency than the division average, and it's at greater exposure to bunching because the buses are scheduled closer together out of necessity because of the ridership. We do still have room to improve. There is a 4.5-minute headway, a 4.5-minute headway, so that is going to lend itself more to bunching than a route that had buses scheduled, say, every 20 minutes. But while there is room to improve, we have made some improvement, and we're on our way with the trend in the right direction. On to the M101. The M101 runs in Manhattan, northbound on 3rd Avenue and southbound on Lexington Avenue, and runs east and west on 125th Street and north and south on Amsterdam Avenue. It runs from 6th Street and 3rd Avenue, Cooper Union, to 193rd Street, Fort George. It is the longest local or limited route in Manhattan. It's over 2 hours running time by schedule from one end to the other. It is also interlined with the M102 and M103. And challenges that we have on the route, bus bunching, it's a very long route, and traffic enforcement, there's any number of pinch points that we can run into there with traffic issues on a route so lengthy. Bus operator availability, that's continually improving picture over the last 2 years, and it's just about resolved now. We're just about where we need to be with that. Limited dispatcher staff resources. No route has unlimited dispatcher and staff resources, but we're trying to apply those more efficiently. Actions taken to improve the performance. Reallocate resources. In this case, we were able to take a dispatcher from one point on the M101 route, and we were able to place that dispatcher at the northern terminus, where previously there had been no supervision. There had previously been no supervision from 125th Street in Amsterdam all the way up to 193rd Street, nearly 70 blocks in Manhattan, and then 70 blocks south again. So that was a long time for a bus route to go without being monitored, other than our eye in the sky of bus trek. So now we have rectified that problem. We've reallocated that from within the route. So again, that's a cost-neutral change that we've made. Regulating headways, adopting bunching mitigations, that's also covered by that I just mentioned, and as well as some of the changes we're making with the supervision on the route and bus trek. Analyze and improve dispatcher service adjustments. Monitor drivers' performance, and we've begun doing that, and already we've observed increased compliance from operators, and they're more on board with the fact that we're out there and watching. By keeping them on time at the terminal, by having somebody there at that northern terminal, when they leave on time, they have a greater tendency to stay on time. It reduces our lates throughout the route, and it helps with bunching by keeping them leaving on regular intervals. Next steps, continuously address the traffic enforcement and safety initiatives. We have expanded that traffic initiative with traffic enforcement to 3 divisions so far. Manhattan is not yet one of them, but that is forthcoming and should be shortly. So that should bring benefits to the M101. Coordinating with DOT to implement the new bus lane on 3rd Avenue. That's eagerly anticipated, and exploring further bus lane extensions, which again would be eagerly anticipated. Here we have some of the substantial results, statistical results for the M101. Weight assessment has increased by 1% from year over year from March. It doesn't seem like a big move, 1%, but this is a very large route, and it has been historically very resistant to improvement in any of the key performance indicators. The route is now almost at the division average. Improvement on the 101, because it's such a large route, it elevates the corridor that it's on, which that corridor, having the 102s, 103s, the M98s, and other buses, there's so many buses are affected by that, that this has substantial gravity in the division aggregate, and it helps elevate the overall numbers of not just this corridor, but the division and our overall numbers as a whole, and that has a direct impact that is experienced by our customers. Service delivered actually dipped slightly over month there. For the course of the year, it went down by 0.5%, And although there was a slight dip, it is still at the division average. And even with the reduced service delivered, the route still made gains across other key performance indicators as shown with the weight assessment. Customer journey time performance was up 2% and made it up to the division average, up and over the division average. Went from slightly below the division average to now just above. And that's despite having a small decrease in the service delivered. We're able to have a benefit there on customer journey time. Bunching, though there's still some room to improve and it's still above the division average, but like the Q66, the M101 is a route that with frequent service and it is more susceptible to bunching. It has a 4-minute headway during the AM rush hour. This is a significant improvement and it's indicative of what can be gained going forward. Coordination with external partners. You can see in that first picture on the left there, that's AGM Jason McShane from Queens North Road Operations. He's participating in a joint initiative with NYPD Community Affairs as far as the removal of sidewalk vendors at Main Street and Flushing. We've had a lot of progress with that. It's an ongoing effort. They do tend to come back, but we're working with the community and Community Affairs to see if we can get them relocated. And that will be an ongoing battle for us to go forward. It is critical that we obtain assistance from our partner agencies. DOT and NYPD are our partners and stakeholders, and they've helped a lot. We do require more help still. We're looking to reach out for MTA, PD, and sanitation and other groups, and we anticipate partnering with them. But in closing, there's a lot to be said for equity in improving these routes, and because a lot of people just don't have other options. So we feel it's necessary to start somewhere. Thank you.
Jim, thank you. Just in a couple of presentations you mentioned that we need to work with city DOT. Where are we with getting them to move on bus lanes?
Yeah, maybe I'll take it first, and maybe Judy can speak to it as well. So Judy and Frank, you popped on as well. So Judy and Frank have been meeting regularly with our DOT partners in a whole host of areas. So it's bus lanes, even some of the dining structures that might be creeping out into the roadway, for example, has been a bit of a challenge, transit signal prioritization. But we have provided DOT with, I think, our wish list of bus lanes in particular. I'll let maybe Judy or Frank take that about where we are. But, you know, suffice to say, I think, you know, the city's made progress, but we're ready, willing, and able to support them to even, you know, do more.
So we have been, you know, for many years, we've been working very closely with DOT, but right now we're even trying to step up even more. We've been, we have a consultant assisting them with the traffic analysis. We also are using some of our traffic checkers to put up signage to discourage people from parking so that when they get their markings equipment out there, there are no cars there and they can utilize it and move through. So we're kind of doing everything we can to assist DOT to try to get them to get more miles. You know, they had a lot of projects that were kind of ready to go at the end of the year, so we're hoping, you know, this spring they can really jump in and get some key projects done in this year.
Thank you. Andrew Midori.
So a couple of the buses that were on the list were the M7 and the M11. They use Columbus and Amsterdam Avenues on the Upper West Side, which are consistently choked with traffic, with delivery vehicles who, if you ticket them, will just consider that a cost of doing business and will not change their habits. So we really, and the outdoor dining structures have crept into the street, as you said, Rich, and we really need dedicated bus lanes on those avenues if we're going to see a difference there. I would also recommend on the traffic checkers that you also check the bus destination signs. I'm often reporting an incorrect destination sign, which, as you know, affects transfers. Thank you.
No, that's good feedback. Thank you.
Midori.
All right, thank you, thank you. So really appreciate the presentation, Zafira and team. I guess I just want to take a moment to step back and connect, you know, the higher level discussions that are happening outside of these rooms regarding the state budget. And, you know, whether, you know, what actions the MTA will have to take next regarding a fare increase. You know, you're doing so much work on bus improvements. And I really appreciate the focus. And I think one of you said, other people don't have options, right? And so we know bus passengers, I think it was a 2017 study that said bus passengers make about, I think, $30,000 a year on average. And 75% of bus passengers are people of color. So I really appreciate the focus. And from an equity standpoint, it's really important to put more investment in it. But that makes me a little wary, right? Because that brings me to, what will the MTA do regarding potential fare increases, regarding a potential adopted budget? I just think that if there were to be any fare increase, it'll have a huge impact on the population that you're working towards making sure they're on the buses, they're getting good service. So that's just what I'm reflecting on right now. The work is really important. My hope is that the folks at the decision-making table really understand, the ridership that you're all focused on, and thinking about the weight of any potential fare increases, especially if it has an increase on the transit-based fare for subways and buses. So that's just something I'm just taking to heart as I think about, you're doing a specific bus-by-bus route, but that, a potential fare increase for people making $30,000 a year, they're going to decide, like, should I still take the bus? Is that still going to be an issue for us? So, yeah, just thinking about that, but I really appreciate the work. Thank you.
David.
Yeah, along the same lines, obviously in our surveys that we do every year, penetration of fair fares in terms of people knowing it exists is lowest in the outer boroughs and places we're talking about. And this is not only your problem, city problem, but clearly a major effort along those bus routes to have, everyone be aware that in this income range that they can access fair fares is going to be important.
Right. I think, I was just thinking, I saw something over the weekend, New York One did something, and I'm like, you should reach out to those council people that represent those areas. And when people walk into their offices, or maybe they don't walk into their offices, maybe they can stand on the corner and give out information to say, what, if you're eligible for fair fares, please apply. It's just getting everybody out there. Anyway, thank you. Should we move on? Okay, I think Safira, Jim, thank you very much. That was great, and keep up the great work. I think we're going to move on to Q for an accessibility update.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. We're making great progress on many projects that enhance the subway, bus, and accessible ride experience for a diverse rider base, especially as post-pandemic ridership rebound continue. I am thrilled to report that last month, within subways, we officially began to pilot our very first whiteout fare gates as an alternative to the auto gate for customers traveling with mobility disabilities, service animals, strollers, luggage, or anyone else who had trouble with our standard turnstile. The first 2 whiteout gates are in service at Atlantic Barclays, the entrance to the Manhattan-bound 2-3 platform near the Long Island Railroad concourse on Ashland and Hanson Place, and at Sutphin Boulevard Orchard Avenue, the JFK Airport Station on the EJZ lines. As with the turnstiles or auto gates, you can use any MetroCard or Omni payment device other than paper single rides to pay for entries at the whiteout gates. We are closely monitoring the customer experience with the gate, counting passenger floats, tracking maintenance needs, and monitoring fare evasions concerns at these gates. With the recognizable saloon-style paddles, as you can see here behind me, that many other major transit systems use, we are excited about the new opportunities that these gates offer to welcome customers into the transit systems with ease and comfort. Finally, we are excited to be partnering with Accessoride Paratransit team to educate customers about the new and improved My AAR app, which allows customers to quickly and easily book their trips online or in the My MTA app without needing to make a phone call. We hope customers will take advantage of this fast, convenient, and always available trip booking tool, and look forward to continuing efforts to improve the My AAR experience. As you heard from some of the speakers earlier, today is a historic day for us, as we are right now in the courts on our federal case, which will hopefully approve our settlement with the disability advocates to forever change the history of how the MTA delivers on accessibility, and setting a floor on a financial commitment in the billions of dollars for accessibility in the years to come. We are very excited about this agreement and hope that the court will agree that the advocates and our team got it right. Thank you.
Good work, Q. Thank you. Any questions for Q? If not, before I turn it over to the chief, Okay, I just want to recognize Frankie Midori, who's been here. Miranda, excuse me. Midori, hold on a second. I want to acknowledge Frank. Thank you, Frank, for being there. I'm sorry I didn't acknowledge you sooner. Go ahead, Midori.
See. I just had a question about timeline on these kind of exciting new gates that you're putting up. What are the next stations slated to be? How can we all work together to make sure that they get deployed?
Thank you for that question, Commissioner. As you may recall from when I first presented on this, we do have a $25 million in this capital plan for these pilots. These are the very first 2 stations to get these type of gates, and we're monitoring them. Within the next couple of months, we'll be changing those paddles that you saw there, adding some that are higher, again, to try and curb fare evasions. And we're looking at other enhancements that we'd like to see. So for us, this is an iterative process. We hope we'll be seeing more of these, and so far, we're monitoring fare evasion, and the numbers are very promising. So we're all very excited about that, and hopefully that'll move us towards an expansion of this pilot.
Great, thank you. Q again. We're now going to move on to Deputy Chief Norman Grandstaff for our crime report.
Good afternoon, Chair Lieber, Chair Mahalsis, President Davey, and members of the board. Chief Kemper asked me to update the committee on his behalf while he's at the today's Police Academy graduation for our newest officers. So we look forward to welcoming a substantial number of those officers to the Transit Bureau. You have before you the latest monthly crime stats. They show the subway system experienced 213 major felonies in the month of March, compared to last year's 187, an increase of 26 crimes. This was driven mainly by a rise in property-related incidents, accounting for an increase of 8 robberies and 26 grand larcenies, 104 grand larcenies versus 78 the previous March. Even with the small uptick in March, we're still below 2022's figures when we look at the year-to-date crime numbers. We're currently showing an 8.3 reduction in 2023. We've taken steps and deployment measures utilizing resources from throughout the NYPD to address this recent uptick, so we continue that downward year-end trend. A year-to-date trend, rather. As I stated last month, grand larcenies make up nearly half of the crime in our subway system, and we continue to see grand larceny recidivists offend and reoffend, repeatedly preying on our ridership. Several weeks ago, on the morning of March 29th, transit officers patrolling in Queens interrupted a live pickpocket theft while on board a moving 7 train. Additional property recovered from this 32-year-old thief tied him to 3 unknowing subway riders who had also had their property stolen. This one man, within a 1-hour span, was responsible for 4 incidents of grand larceny. If you add that to the one other grand larceny he committed just several weeks before that, we have a very busy month of March with this prolific thief, tallying 5 felony thefts in our subway system that we know of. When I say offend and reoffend, I'm 100% serious. This same thief was arrested by transit officers just last Thursday and now faces charges in connection with 2 more cases of theft from the subway passengers. This man is just one example of the recidivists who see a packed subway system with more and more riders as a place of opportunity. Transit officers, including some of our most skilled plainclothes officers, are committed to curbing exactly this type of criminal activity. As is the case with these prolific offenders, conferrals with our district attorney partners take place at the highest levels to ensure a strong and consequential prosecution. Earlier in the meeting, assaults on MTA workers were brought up. Just to comment on that, for the year, we're down actually in assaults on MTA workers, 16 versus 21, down nearly 24%. That is all I have for you this month. I thank you for your time, and I welcome any questions you may have.
Okay, Chief, thank you. Any questions for Chief? Okay. If not, thank you, Chief. Hopefully things will start getting better. Talou?
Yes, thank you. The New York City Transit procurement package includes one item this month. This item is the exercise of option 1 of the federally funded contract for post-award consulting services for the R34211 subway car contract to C2K Partners, a joint venture between LTK Engineering Services of New York and CH2M Hill, New York Incorporated. In October 2022, the board approved the award of option 1 to the base R34211 contract with Kawasaki for the design, manufacturing, and delivery of 640 additional R211A cars. The consulting services to be provided under this option will take place during the production phase and primarily cover inspection support, testing, and other engineering support that may be required for these 640 additional cars. C2K submitted its proposal in the amount of $23.9 million. This price was based on estimated annual labor rate adjustment formulas as set forth in the base contract and includes overhead and travel expenses. Negotiations resulted in the final price of $23.6 million, a reduction of $326,000. I submit this procurement for board approval.
Any questions for Lou? If not, do I hear, oh, Brandy, you have a question? Okay, all right. If not, can I have a motion to amend the procurement? To accept the procurement, excuse me. Motion second? Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passed. Thank you. Yeah, Andrew has a question.
Yeah, this might be late since the vote is taking place, but it wasn't going to affect the vote anyway. Is Kawasaki clear with us on the delivery schedule of the additional fleet?
There's a clear delivery schedule in terms of the base, and there's a schedule associated with this option. So I would, Demetrius, I would say yes.
We have a revised schedule which will be enacted as soon as we complete the 30-day test.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. No further business. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Excuse me.
Madam Chair, before we adjourn, I just wanted to be here to note that Mr. Davey, in celebration of his own birthday, hit the 4 million number. We got to give a little extra shout out for that.
You missed this
I mean,
morning.
just so that we would really appreciate him on his 50th birthday. He hit 4 million last week. Well, let me just say it's part of a broader pattern, maybe not as self-interested as I'm suggesting.
When I took the job a year ago, I was only 42 years old, by the way.
But I just got to say, and Demetrius is here, so he'll share in the glory. We really have made tremendous strides. At the same time, we're growing ridership, and usually people think that more riders mean more dwell time issues and more rider illness issues, and that impacts on performance. But simultaneously, driving ridership up and driving performance up in all the different ways that we measure it is no small accomplishment. So because it happens to fall on your birthday, I just need to be here and say we are all very grateful that you, with your amazing team, Demetrius, Frank, I see Judy here, and everybody who is working at Transit to make this system everything we want and expect, and New Yorkers are thrilled. I think I speak for all of them, thrilled with your leadership, so thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Then you can adjourn. I'll make the motion to adjourn.
A second. All those in favor? All right. Thank you.